Hi, my name is Tim Carter, and this is Koine.org. It's the Apologetic and Outreach Ministry of Landmark Missionary Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Arkansas. We are considering an unusual topic, feedback, and I guess for now several years we've experienced something that I will just entitle it Koine, KJV, and Ketchup. And why I say that is because I planted tomatoes for years, and no one ever approached me and said, hey, what's wrong with ketchup that is in the store, such as a name brand? And if they had asked me, I would say, whatever do you mean? They'd say, well, you have a personal garden in your own backyard and you grow your own tomatoes, so what's wrong with name brand tomatoes or tomato products in the store? And I've never been in a grocery store or any type of produce market or farmer's market, and found myself challenged when I would purchase produce. No one ever said, well, I thought you had your own garden. So I've never understood it in either direction. I was never stopped in a grocery store and asked, why are you buying ketchup off the shelf, when I heard you plant your own tomatoes and grow your own tomatoes? And you say, well, what does that have to do with Koine and KJV? Well, I am starting to get the strong impression, when I went back and used a meta-analytical review, that is, or took a meta-analytical view of all the information, and because I admire the King James Version of the Bible, which Oxford University supports the Oxford edition, Cambridge University supports the Cambridge edition. It's one of the largest, the last hinge on which history has turned. The first hinge was in 1520s, William Tyndale, who, as a person categorized as Baptist, that is, accused of Baptist because he believes, and we share the same faith today, those who follow the New Testament as he, and he was the first person to ever translate the Greek New Testament into English and brought, as we would understand, Christianity to the Western world. So that was a large hinge on which history turned and led to what we know today: science, all fields of science, physics, chemistry, mathematics, calculus specifically, especially. And then in the United States of America, a person of the same faith as William Tyndale was the first president of Harvard University, and William James, theologian at Harvard University, developed the science we know today as psychology, not the perverted forms, I suppose, or alternative forms, but the forms that were direct products of what took place in 1522. So I don't know how much more I could admire the King James Bible, since by the time the King James Bible is the last hinge, because King James, although he was a persecutor of Baptists, and although the faith practiced by those who were of his entourage of scholars, which they actually did not produce the translation, they merely committed practice emendation so that they could assure that that version of it did not contradict the doctrines of their state religion, the Church of England. So when I admire it, it's because the content belongs to us, people who are spuriously called and despised as Baptist. And my use of the languages, which were also written by those of us who are despised and called Baptist, and the content of the King James Bible is that of the Baptist William Tyndale. So I'm not sure what the connection is, but if I use languages, Hebrew and Greek, people say something about the King James Bible. They falsely or artificially juxtapose some kind of connection there. And then if you admire the King James, feedback will say, I thought you used Greek and Hebrew. So I personally have never used another English translation for study, but historically I haven't found another hinge on which such dramatic history turned. I can see why, for historical reasons, people like to disassociate from it because of the horrors of persecution and then the victory of God's people, the commoners accused of being Baptist, who would neither preach with a license nor baptize with a license from any state religion. And that's why we don't have a Church of the United States. But how it's becoming somewhat confusing for people is somehow if you use languages, people suppose erroneously that you're impugning the King James Bible, which is actually a brand. It's actually not their content. The great Bibles since 1522 are actually just rebranded versions of William Tyndale, and they all practice emendation to assure that it did not contradict what they were holding to be true at the time. So I couldn't have a higher opinion of the historical reality of Christianity as it was introduced to the Western world by the Baptist singular William Tyndale, and then how it endured until the conquest of state religion. So when I carry a King James Bible, I carry it as a token of victory over persecutors, the last of the tyrants, and also as a testament to the faithfulness of God to use his people, the commoners accused as Baptist, to bring Christianity to the Western world and all that we have subsequent to it. So that's why we are not in an adversarial relationship with science, since we are the ones who produced the theology that led to the science, fields of science that we know today. So whatever all that is out there, I only use ketchup as a good question for people when they call into question if I admire a bottle of ketchup on the shelf. No one says, well, I thought you planted your own tomatoes. And if I plant my own tomatoes, no one ever says, hey, what's wrong with the ketchup on the shelf on aisle 3 at the grocery store? So as silly as that may sound, it certainly does suit the occasion, because it's quite erroneous to suppose the two are mutually exclusive, that somehow if you're an advocate of the great English Bible, King James, that somehow you are against or opposed to Bible languages, since for us as the Baptist, both the translation, its content, and both the languages from which it was produced all belong to us. So as my friend, his company is called Get a Grip, I'll just advise people to get a grip. And you have a blessed